Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Fridge Returned to Seller. I was looking for a second fridge, and found one on Marketplace for a price I could live with. Drove out to see it. It was clean, and the guy showed me that it worked, so I paid him and took it home. Stupid me. Just because it turns on when it's plugged in doesn't mean it works. I asked if he'd give half my money back. I figured there wasn't much chance he'd say yes, but I'm willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Of course, he blocked me. I'm not interested in a broken fridge. So I borrowed my friend and his truck a second time, loaded the fridge up, and returned it to this dude's house at about 1 a.m. We wedged that thing right up against his front door and left. The next story is titled, Force Me to Accept to Give My Business Away to Someone Else? It'll hit you in the pocket in a way that you will never expect. Around 15 years ago, I took on a hotel. I'd seen this hotel on the street that I owned a bar be massively underused, and basically be an overflow hotel for when a local chain was full during peak summer season. It was basically empty for 46 weeks of the year, and I let my interest in it be known should it ever become available. Years later, I'd kind of forgotten that I'd even said anything to the owner, but they hadn't forgotten, and the large hotel chain pulled out from their contract, and now with only a few weeks until the summer season starting, they now had an empty property with no tenant and no income. I managed to negotiate a very good price for year one, as I'd have to throw money at the place to get it ready, and I'd still lose a few weeks of the summer with all my best efforts. And then a reasonable rent for 3 more years with a renewing clause that they assured me would be honored. Basically, if I wanted to continue, they would simply let the contract roll on. They said that as long as I was happy and the rent was being paid, that's all they cared about. They said they were happy with the rent I was paying and all seemed fine. I gutted every bedroom. New wiring, lights, power switches, bedding, curtains, all cosmetic stuff to make it nice to look at. I also repainted every room. The walls hadn't been painted in what looked like at least a decade, and some of the walls were so rotten that I had to scrape so many back and treat them before I could paint them again. I basically gave the whole place a facelift. I did it all on a small budget and called in every favor I could. I worked 20 hours a day for weeks while still operating another business, a bar, on the same street. Eventually we opened and it was a hit. I was able to make a nice profit in year one and have money to reinvest and remodel the hotel even more for year two. I installed new aircon, converted the bar downstairs into a coffee shop, and year two was better than year one. It was at this point the owner decided to break the contract. He had received a much better offer from another chain hotel again. He had realized that I had taken his piece of shit falling apart hotel and made it much better, and now he wanted to cash in on all my work. His exact words were, "I'm not going to renew the contract in 2 years' time." So basically, I could accept his offer to me now. He owned a bar that wasn't working and he wanted me to come in as his owner/partner to make it work at no cost to me if I walked away from the hotel. Or if I saw out the contract, I would be given no offer of any sort. And he said he would actively work against me for those 2 years as well. So I was basically given an offer I couldn't refuse. I was paid to leave, and received a shareholding in a bar at no cost to me. Sounds reasonable, I suppose, but I was still bitter that I was being made to take it whether I wanted to or not. I had put so much hard work into that hotel after all. I couldn't let him get away with how he went about it, could I? Cue petty revenge. This was a 30-bedroom hotel, 80 beds. I went around every single room and removed all but 3 of the 7 bed slats on every bed. The mattresses were held up and in place, but anything more than lightly sitting on the bed on the exact point of a slat, and you'd fall through the bed and onto the floor below. So the new hotel chain took over, changed the name, and basically opened my hotel as it was. As a chain, they were busy immediately. After only 3 days, they were closed again and had a delivery of 80 new bed frames. Owner was made to pay for them, as he had signed a contract to say that he was providing a hotel in perfect condition, and he had assumed that's how I'd have left it for him. I had not. To this day, he has never said a word to me about it. He just ate the bill and said nothing. But we both know that I got my revenge. Further info. He was an awful partner, and after I had made his bar work, he forced me out of there too, but with no offer of anything this time. During COVID, he went bankrupt, as all his businesses were hospitality-based and they all had to close. The next story is titled, Make Me Smell Your Cigs and I'll Just Make Sure You Never Sleep Well. So, my apartment complex has a no smoking within like 50 feet of the building rule, and it's usually followed well. My downstairs neighbors have decided that they can bother that tiny amount and must smoke on their balcony, so anyone near them can't have a window or anything open without the smell filling their apartment. I have asked them 3 times now to not do this, or at least if they need nicotine in their place, just vape, so it doesn't smell like shit. They have decided they can't handle that, and the apartment managers can't do anything without the actual apartment smelling like smoke. So, for the revenge, I've decided that every night, starting at 9 p.m., every 30 minutes I will be going over where their bedroom is and just start jumping and slamming my feet as hard as I can into the ground, making sure they will never get a good night's sleep again while living here. I have also checked the apartment rules, and while there are quiet hours, it only pertains to things like music, TV, and parties, but doesn't matter for just movement, aka I will be doing this until these people leave. The next story is titled, My Summertime Revenge. My last apartment was right in the middle of the complex, about 20 feet from the pool. Over this past summer, there were lots of issues with people staying at the pool literally all day, starting around breakfast time until 2 to 3 a.m. Lots of drugs, alcohol, fights, and loud music every freaking day and night. Cops were called nightly, a flurry of complaints went to complex management and their corporate overlords with the dismissive question mark as their helpful response. Those of us who lived around the pool were at our wits' end until I had a genius idea in late July. There was a party still raging at 1 a.m., so I set up my Bluetooth speaker under a bush, cranked the volume, pushed play, and I hit repeat. It was Baby Shark. It only took one replay to make them leave. I did it again every time a party lasted past midnight. People got the hint pretty quickly and never came back. It was glorious. The last story is titled, Karen slaps disabled veteran at mall, calls 911 on him after getting destroyed. The story begins with me and my wife going to the mall. I don't usually go out much, but I really wanted to go to the mall and see a special exhibition. The exhibition was with vintage cars, which I loved, but first we had to go buy some things from an ailment store in the mall. For starters, let me tell you some things about me. I'm a veteran, but I'm also disabled and I have to walk around with a cane. My wife, who's been a great support for me since the beginning, always helps me get around. She is a martial arts teacher, which I find very interesting and powerful. We got to the mall and started doing our shopping as normal. Shopping was not our favorite thing to do. It was hard to move around and people were always staring. I wanted to wait for her at the exhibition for that exact reason, but I wanted to help. "Excuse me, I need help," said a female voice from behind them. "Hello," she added. I turned around and looked at the woman. She was the spitting image of what you call a Karen. Everything about her was screaming Karen. Her clothes, her hair, and also her expensive pink purse. I already knew that the conversation would be an annoying one, but I still replied. "Hello to you too. What can I help you with?" I asked, smiling. "I need help finding something in the store, of course," she replied. "I'm not an employee here, lady. I can't help you," I replied. "You think you're funny or something?" "I want to speak to your manager," she shouted. "I don't know who the manager of this place is. What is your problem?" I asked. "You cannot talk like this to your clients. Your client is your boss, and I demand respect," she said. "That might be true, but the only thing is that I don't work here," I said again. "As I said, I want to speak to your manager," she shouted. "Ma'am, I also want to speak to the one owning the psychiatric hospital you ran out of," I said, already angry. She took a few steps closer to me and slapped me as hard as she could. Then she started kicking my cane and laughing. "You know that I know this cane is fake, right?" she asked, laughing. "Disabled people don't walk around malls," she added. Karen got closer to me and started laughing harder, and because of how angry I was, I gave her a leg sweep and she fell to the ground. She quickly got up and she was ready to scream. But then she noticed that her purse got dirty with something from the floor. She started screaming louder. "I can't believe this. First you assaulted me, and then you dirty my purse," she started screaming. "This purse is more expensive than everything you've ever seen in your life," she added, pretending she was crying. "You harassed and assaulted me first," I shouted. "I told you that I don't work here, but you insisted," I added. "That's not true. You sexually assaulted me, and pushing you was self-defense," she said, and then looked at her purse. "This purse is more expensive than your house and your car altogether, old man," she added. "And you think that's something to be proud of?" I asked. "Spending so much money on a purse?" I added. Karen started hitting me with her purse, but my wife intervened. "That's enough. I'm calling the police," said my wife. "I thought that you'd stop, but I see that you're not going to," she added. Karen goes closer to her and starts hitting her with her purse. She pushes my wife as hard as she can, but my wife reacts. As I told you in the beginning of this story, my wife is a martial arts teacher. She started doing all kinds of tricks on Karen. I must say, I know that we shouldn't reply with violence to violence, but I'm very proud of my wife for kicking Karen's ass. Karen fell to the ground again, crying and shouting. She then takes out her phone and calls the police, stating that I sexually assaulted her and my wife beat her. Meanwhile, the manager came. Some employee who saw the scene called him. "What happened here?" asked the manager. "I assume you are the manager. So, let me tell you what happened. This employee of yours sexually, physically, and mentally assaulted me. And the other one, the woman, beat me," Karen shouted. "First of all, this man is not my employee," said the manager. The manager was confused, looking at us and then at Karen. The story Karen told was hard to believe. My wife and I told our side of the story and how things really went. Meanwhile, the police showed up at the scene and started asking questions. "Police officer, these three right here tried to assault me," shouted Karen. "At first it was just these two, but the manager joined them. They assaulted me right here and I only acted in self-defense," she said. "We'll check the security cameras and see exactly what happened," said the police officer. "There's no need for that. I already told you what happened." "They assaulted me. You have to arrest them," added Karen. "They're both employed here, and the manager is covering for them," she added. "Unfortunately, lady, we can't take anyone's words as truth. We have to do our job, and if they're guilty, we'll arrest them," replied the policeman. The police checked the security cameras and they saw and heard everything that really happened. Fortunately for me and my wife, the quality of the store's security cameras was amazing, and you could also hear the conversation really well. The police knew what they were dealing with, so they went to arrest Karen. The police officer came from behind and put the handcuffs on her. She started screaming and kicking. "You are under arrest for assault, false declaration," said the policeman. "How is this possible? He insulted and assaulted me, the woman beat me, and they even dirtied my purse," she shouted. She continued screaming and shouting, moving aggressively, trying to escape the policeman holding her. Karen managed to break out of the policeman's arms and she started running towards the exit. She was laughing and showing us the middle finger, but two policemen started running after her and caught her right away. "Stupid move, lady," the policeman said, smiling. "You just made things worse for yourself," he added. She started swearing, threatening my wife and I. We both just stared at her, not saying anything, just waiting for her to be taken away. Karen was arrested and directly taken to jail. The manager apologized to us thousands of times, offered us a discount of 60%, and gave us his personal phone number. He offered us a meal as an apology, and we talked about this and that. After that, we all went to the exhibition, and the manager paid for both our tickets, which was amazing because they were very expensive. In the end, we ended up with a fun story to tell, a discount at the mall, free entry at the exhibition, and a new friend. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.